Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Exploring Marketing Research, Chapter number 13, Part 1, Measurement. After studying this chapter, you should be able to determine what needs to be measured to address a research question or hypothesis. Distinguish levels of scale measurement. What do I measure? Not every cook or chef needs to follow a recipe to create a great dish, but most amateur chefs find one very useful. Look at Exhibit 13.1. The recipe shows ingredients that can produce a tasty chicken dish. However, many readers, even those with some cooking ability, may have a difficult time following this recipe. Let's look at Exhibit 13.1. If you look at this Exhibit 13.1 A and B, on one side the dish is shown, and on the A side some ingredients are shown, and the language is used French. What do I mean? So why first many may have difficulty translating all the French terms? Second, even when this is done, many will have difficulty knowing just what amounts of what ingredients should be included. How many could easily deal with the different measures listed by the ingredients? How much is 50 ml? What is 454 gram? How much is a pinch? Can I use my normal measuring utensil scales? What do I measure? If one tries to follow the recipe, one will certainly realize that even common things like weights and amounts can be measured multiple ways. If a mistake is made in measuring something, the dish may be completely ruined. Just as in the cooking arts, business and marketing concepts can often be measured in more than one way. Also, researchers often may have to use imperfect measurement devices. When a concept is measured poorly, is likely the recipe is likely a disaster. Only in this case, the recipe is usually an important business decision, poorly made instead of a ruined dish. What do I mean? The decision statement corresponding research questions and research hypotheses can be used to decide what concepts needs to be measured in a given project. What do I measure? Measurement is the process of describing some property of a phenomenon of interest, usually by assigning numbers in a reliable and valid way. What do I measure? The numbers convey information about the property being measured. When numbers are used, the researcher must have a rule for assigning a number to an observation in a way that provides an accurate description. Measurement can be illustrated by thinking about the way instructors assign students grades. A grade represents a student's performance in a class. Students with higher performance should receive a different grade than do students with lower performance. Even the apparently simple concept of student performance is measured in many different ways. Consider the following options. Number one, a student can be assigned a letter corresponding to his or her performance. A, A represents excellent performance, B represents good performance, C represents average performance, D represents poor performance, and F represents failing performance. Number two, a student can be assigned a number from 1 to 20. A. 20 represents outstanding performance. B. 11 to 20 represent differing degrees of passing performance. C. Below 11, failing performance. Number three, a student can be assigned a number corresponding to a percentage performance scale. A 100% represents a perfect score. All assignments are performed correctly. B 60 to 99% represents differing degrees of passing performance, each number representing the proportion of correct work. C 0 to 59% represents failing performance but still captures proportion of correct work. Number four, a student can be assigned one of two letters corresponding to performance. A, P is equal to represents a passing mark. F is equal to represents a failing mark. Concepts. Concept, a generalized idea about a class of object attributes, occurrences, or processes. Concept. A researcher has to know what to measure before knowing how to measure something. The problem definition process should suggest the concepts that must be measured. A concept can be thought of as a generalized idea that represents something of meaning. Concept. Concepts such as age, education, gender, and number of children are relatively concrete properties. They present few problems in either definition or measurement. Other concepts are more abstract. Concepts such as loyalty, personality, channel power, trust, corporate culture, customer satisfaction, value, and so on are more difficult to both define and measure. Concept. For example, loyalty has been measured as a combination of customer share, the relative proportion of a person's purchases going to one competing brand, store, and commitment, or the degree to which a customer will sacrifice to do business with a brand or store. The first component is a behavioral measure and the second is attitudinal. Operational definition specifies what the researcher must do to measure the concept under investigation. Operational definition. Researchers measure concepts through a process known as operationalization. This process involves identifying scales that correspond to variance in the concept. Operational definition. Scales, just as a scale you may use to check your weight, provide a range of values that correspond to different values in the concept being measured. In other words, scales provide correspondent rules. In other words, scales provide correspondence rules that indicate that a certain value on a scale corresponds to some true value of a concept. Hopefully, they do this they do this in a fruitful way. Operational definition. Here is an example of a correspondence rule. Assign the numbers 1 through 7 to individuals according to how much trust that person has in a sales representative. If sales representative is completely trustworthy, assign a 7. If the sales representative is perceived as completely untrustworthy, assign the number 1. Variable. Researchers use variance in concepts to make diagnosis. Therefore, when we define variables in an earlier chapter, we really were suggesting that variables capture different concept values. Scales capture variance in concepts and as such, the scales provide the researchers variables. Variable, thus for practical purposes, once a research project is underway, there is little difference between a concept and a variable. Consider the following hypothesis. H1, experience is positively related to job performance. The hypothesis implies a relationship between two variables, experience and job performance. The variable captures variance in the experience and performance concepts. One employee may have 15 years of experience and be a top performer. A second may have 10 years experience and be a good performer. The scale used to measure experience is quite simple in this case and would involve simply providing the number of years an employee has been with the company. Job performance is captured by a scale in which a supervisor places the employee into a category. Constructs. Sometimes a single variable cannot capture a concept alone. Using multiple variables to measure one concept can often provide a more complete account of some concept than could any single variable. So constructs in even the physical sciences, multiple measures are often used to make sure an accurate representation is obtained. In social science, many concepts are measured with multiple measurements. A construct is a term used for concepts that are measured with multiple variables. For instance, when a marketing researcher wishes to measure the customer orientation of salesperson, several variables like these may be used, each captured on a 1 to 5 scale. Number 1, I offer the product that is best suited to a customer's problem. Number 2, a good employee has to have the customer's best interest in mind. Number 3, I try to find out what kind of products will be most helpful to a customer. Constructs can be very helpful in operationalizing a concept. Media skepticism. Here is another example with which you can understand that media with the example of media skepticism. The conceptual definition of media skepticism is the degree to which individuals are skeptical toward the reality presented in the mass media. Media skepticism varies across individuals, from those who are mildly skeptical and accept most of what they see and hear in the media to those who completely discount and disbelieve the facts, values, and portrayal of reality in the media. Media skepticism operational definition. Please tell me how true each statement is about the media. Is it very true, not very true, or not at all true? Number 1, the program was not very accurate in its portrayal of the problem. Number 2, most of the story was staged for entertainment purposes. Number 3, the presentation was slanted and unfair. Thank you. That's all for part 1.